So today, I want to have a conversation, not just about the training itself, but the strategy, the systems, and the sustainability in place. Who knows Nigeria's budget for 2025? So it's 55 trillion naira, and the government is the biggest spender in our economy. The thing with trainings, if you look at it, of that 55 trillion, who wants to take a guess how much was budgeted for training in each ministry? Anybody knows? Every ministry has a training budget. Because I love my job, I will not tell you the amount. But I'll tell you something. During the course of my job, we had a conversation around the KPIs for some of these ministries. And everybody wanted to have training as a KPI. And I was wondering, what's happening? Why is nobody talking about the effectiveness of the training? You just want to measure the training. And somebody said something to me. The transfer you're looking for, when it comes to their turn, they too, they'll be trained. And that was it. But as I sat back, I realized, so the day Sandra came to me with this, I was just screaming and jumping. And I'm like, finally, somebody who understands where I am with this. So, and I'm glad the example was given. If you train somebody, no matter how great it is, if the system to implement is not there, it's just like you've taught them to swim and you sent them to the desert. Nothing will happen. There's no magic. One thing I learned also is government is irrational about cost. We're talking about ROIs, we're talking about ROE. In government, we do send. And I'll give you an example. Sorry, this is a bit, just to be sure. Okay, so let me just pause for a bit. There's this particular government agency, and the staff was protesting about the CEO. And the protest was so bad, and the CEO came out and he said, what's the issue? And people were throwing complaints and complaints and complaints. And he said, oh yeah, I've approved training for everybody. And that was the end. Protest is gone. Whatever issues, everybody is sorted and we're happy. That's the approach we have for trainings. But what are the systems that we need? What environment are we prepared for people to? Because from where I stand, it's not really the line manager, especially in government. It's the system in itself. Sometimes even the line managers are helpless. Everybody is stuck in one vicious cycle that just doesn't move. So if the environment doesn't support whatever new things you've taught, the learning dies. So let me give you a couple of examples. My brief was to keep it as relatable as possible. I stopped being a trainer a long time ago, and I will tell you why over the course of this. So I tried to make sure I keep it as relatable as possible. So first example, somebody was sent on a professional training to learn email writing. And they went, and it was a great session, so much practice, so much implementation. You know, people were writing emails and sending it out. Monday morning, everybody is back at the office. Somebody wrote one paragraph for a simple request. Somebody wrote 5 paragraphs to ask, are you at your desk? So now the manager is saying, oh, the emails are too long. Urgent tasks are getting delayed because somebody is thinking of how to write, trust this email meets you well. Or different variations of them. So the training worked, but it didn't fit the reality. And I'll tell you, when we were in consulting, I used to work in 2 of the consulting firms. It's so fast-paced, everything is urgent. So if you are teaching me to write long emails and long paragraphs, you've lost the brief. But where did that challenge come from? Again, we've spoken so much about the needs assessment. Sometimes, genuinely, we want our people to learn how to write professional emails. So that's not the problem. The problem is that they were taught in a way that doesn't fit the system that they operate in. So another example. Well, this is loading. I have no idea why it takes some time. This one, quite popular, teamwork. Everyone goes on team bonding exercises, team training exercises. We'll go out to the park, go to the beach, we'll do rope climbing, we'll do egg race. Everybody is involved in teamwork. After the training, what are we telling our employees? The KPI is employee of the month. They will post their picture. How does that say to you that you're promoting teamwork? So those are things that happen on a daily that we need to realize. Managers will tell you, I asked you to do this thing. Why are you going around asking people for help? It was supposed to be confidential between us. So people are not in the systems that we're training them to be in. So you're training people for teamwork, but the environment is punishing teamwork. So are we even saying the right things? Another example. This is probably one of my favorites. Please forgive me if the slides are a bit, I have no idea. I think the transition is, okay, so this is probably my favorite. Time management. And again, I'll go back to consulting. The first thing they tell you onboarding, work-life balance. You know the balance. They will teach you all the matrices, everything you need to know in terms of training. Monday morning, before you reach the office, 12 urgent messages have popped in your email. You know, you're in back-to-back meetings so much that you don't have time to document what you learned or in the first meeting. Nobody has control over their calendar. That one is given. Calendar is just for calendar's sake. You know, so much so that sometimes you don't even have lunch. When was the last time somebody went out for their lunch break at lunch? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are the issues. So what are we saying in terms of the systems that we're creating? How do you even apply time management in a system where everything is urgent and nothing is planned? And it's everywhere. You know, the flip side, somebody told me a joke. They said in private sector, when they say 2 working days, they mean 2 working days. In government, we don't have working days, we have working weeks. So depending on what you want, you get it in the number of working weeks that you want. And then the final example I wanted to give is, so they sent a receptionist to a training. It was supposed to be a customer service workshop, and she was so excited when she got back. She was greeting everybody warmly, smiling, you know, offering to help. But her supervisor said, my friend, will you stop talking too much and just do your job? That's the question. What is her job? So again, as we think through these things, what systems are we putting people back into? For me, that's the biggest question, because people are willing. People are teachable. People genuinely want to do better. But the system, are we addressing the root cause of the issue? Training is not an event. It's not an intervention. So if whatever we're trying to do doesn't even support a strategy, and that's the second part of this presentation, then you're wasting your time. I had a mentor who would always tell me, training gives people wings, but systems will determine if you will fly or if you will crash. So again, talking about strategy, and I want to start with this question, talking about managers and whatnot. We said so much today about executive buy-in. So I'll throw in a question to the audience. Based on what we know of civil service, government, and the budget for planning and training, if today, Mr. President says, no more training for civil servants unless it is needs-based, what will happen? Any suggestions? Today, the executive has decided training shall only be needs-based. What will happen? I never faced union before, Shay. Protest. the same people that are supposed to encourage the system to do better will revolt against the system. So it's a vicious cycle. And where do you start from? So I hear you when you say, especially in private sector, executives help. But in government, you need to go around. So I'll tell you also is, I've seen situations where we have organizations that don't have strategy. Everybody is just moving. We don't know what we're trying to do. We don't know where we're going to. So how do we deal with people like that? Again, I like to give so much examples, so you'll forgive me. And my first example, and this is all practical that I've seen when I joined government, is one, you send people, this is a data analysis unit, and people were sent to do Excel trainings. Only one laptop was in that department. So the question was, how do you even want people to do the job? The next example that I like to give, and let me pause here a bit, communication training. Almost everybody, one way or the other, has gone through communication training. And I'll tell you my best example. I escorted a friend to submit a proposal to the military for communication training. And the head of HR said to them, he was a general, and he said, in military, our only communication is yes, sir. And truly, it's a fact. That's what they believed in. So imagine my shock when I found a military officer saying, I'm not a fool, sir. I have integrity, sir. Well, he's still saying, sir. But you see, again, we're back to the conversation around needs. There's another communication thing that happens. I was in university when you were born. There's another one that happens. Oh, you Gen Zs. Another one that happens, I have an open door policy, but nobody comes into your door. So all of these things, it's easy for us to say them, but it doesn't match whatever our intended strategy is. And I was reading on LinkedIn, I saw a post that really got me going. Somebody attended a communication training, and incidentally, they came back and they had a clash with their manager. And the manager said to them, are you a fool or am I a fool? I don't know what it is with Nigerians at the word fool. And I kept thinking to myself, how would I respond to that? But she had just come out from an effective training, so she said to him, sir, I know that you don't hire fools. Whatever you take of that, that's your problem. And if you don't understand, maybe find a communication training to go for. Another one that happens in government is leadership training with zero delegation rights. I was part of a session. I was asked to speak at a leadership session. And I asked, what was the audience? And they said, everybody is level 8. And I was like, In government, level 8 is like entry level. And we're doing leadership training. Have you even done onboarding for these people? You know, so sometimes you've taught people so much, and the danger with this is they now start feeling like they're leaders. And that's okay. But if your strategy is that this person gets promoted every 4 years, by the time he gets to the top, it's after 35 years of service. Please, why are we doing leadership training now? And the last one that I saw that really shocked me was procurement staff were going for graphic design training. I kid you not, this was a real life story. So I said to myself, well, what is the problem? Because when you go, the trainings are true, and they're effective, and they happen. But what was the thinking? What was the strategy? How did we arrive at this level? So the question, and I know we had a lot of conversation, but the truth is, if I want to exhaust my budget, anything goes. If I have to make returns, I'll make returns. Like we said so much, it's a welfare package. So how do we fix that? For me, couple of questions. First is, are we doing a behavior reorientation? Are we doing a culture orientation? Are we re-educating people? Because sometimes it's easy for anybody, and I keep saying to people, it's fine if you want to go on trainings, but go on trainings that affect you. Go on trainings that affect your line of work. There's a lot out there that people can achieve. So for HR people, I always say, especially in government, it's quite easy in private sector because you have people who, forgive my language, have gone through the ranks, experience, capabilities and capacities are in there. So you know what to look out for, and there's a consequence management system in place. People have KPIs. But if you work in an environment where your KPIs are even unknown, we're just going, and I know that the promotion is after 4 years. When it's close to 4 years, I'll fix the problem. People just move. So how do? You start re-educating people. As a business, or as a government, what are we trying to do? And I'll tell you, this worked in the ministry. A new minister came in and she sat with everybody and she said, see, I know that this is the status quo, but there are a couple of things we have to do differently. And so she said to them, this is how we fit in the industry. And if you don't do X, Y, Z, this same country that you're complaining about goes to shambles. So first of all, people need to realize this is the role they play. And then you start asking questions. How can I help you build your role? How can I help you do better? So ask them questions. What systems do you need me to change or implement so that whatever it is that you're doing would work out? We had a simple situation where the boss or the CEO of this agency stopped using her private elevators. And so every morning, she would join the elevator everybody is joining to go up to whatever floor you're going up to, and she would catch up in the elevators with people. So you don't need 10 emails and an appointment for 1 month to have a conversation with me. Simple system, easier results. So that whole conversation around how much does the CEO know, sometimes it's a simple fix in the glitch that would help you do that. And I've spoken so much about KPIs. As long as we don't have performance indicators, as long as we don't have consequence management, we'll keep moving the way we're moving, regardless of how efficient the process is. Naturally, people will deviate from whatever it is. So, and the last thing for me is sustainability. People don't forget what they were trained. People just get swallowed by reality. By the time you've trained and learned this thing and you're back to your system and they're sending you urgent emails, what you learned yesterday is at the back shelf. But one day something would happen and you would say, oh, when I went for that training, somebody said XYZ. So it's not that you forgot, it's just at the back seat. It's not important anymore. So for me, sustainability is that transfer. Sustainability is how we're ensuring that we embed systems that work, systems that enable people to implement what they learned. So please give people the right tools and the right environment. The next thing is resources. Are people being paid commensurate to the job that they're doing? Do people have access to resources that will enable them to do the job? If resources are not in place, whatever trainings that you're doing, you will lose out because the impact would not resonate with anybody. And we've seen lots of times, one of the fundamental reasons why people scramble for trainings, and we call it welfare, is because the welfare on the other side has failed. If the welfare on the other side was good, we would not be scrambling for this one. So those are conversations that we need to be aware of. And then reporting processes. Transfer of training would never be effective if there's no clear reporting line. Who is doing the checking? And how is it being done? What is the frequency? And then incentives. What are the incentives for those that are doing well? And in line with that, which I would come to, is the disincentives as well. this person is taking the initiative. And we see them every day. People who, for no reason at all, would take out their time trying to make sure that whatever they've learned, they're improving it. Against all odds, what are the incentives for these kind of people? And then I've spoken so much about leadership behavior, so I probably wouldn't mention them so much. One thing we always ignore for me is culture. As Nigerians, we're diverse. We have culture. I went to a training recently in one of those great training institutions. And as I walked in, the receptionist said to me, "Madam, your outfit is not compliant with what we're trying to do." And I said to her, "Then I'll leave." So sometimes cultural norms affect how we're able to do trainings and how we're able to transfer them effectively. People always, and I feel also that sometimes it's not deliberate, but what we understand is there are things you do that addresses cultural norms that makes it easy for other people to just flow. Just knowing that, okay, this is okay, this works for me, that's all I need to work. And then finally is accountability frameworks, consequence management. And I'll say this, consequence management, it's easy to put it for the individual. It's easy for the line manager, but is there a consequence for the firm if your trainings are failing? As a business, what are your own accountability frameworks? I worked in a firm where, interestingly, maybe this should be a case study someday. This firm would take out 15% of profits to address their lapses. So if the lapse came in terms of trainings that they didn't do, 15% of the profits would go back to whoever was affected. So as much as people were trying to move up, this firm and the leadership at the executive level were trying to make sure they don't lose out on 15% of profits. At the end of the day, everybody is better off. So it's easy, but sometimes our accountability frameworks, our consequence management systems need to be clear. Finally, what I always want to say to people is, and this is the last thing I'll probably say is, training is not an outcome, it's an input. Whatever outcome you get is based on how you frame it. And I don't want to go into the technicals, but people need to realize that, and I say this especially for people in my industry, in government, we treat trainings like outcomes. We've done it, end of discussion. No, that's the beginning of the discussion. That's where we should start having the conversation. What are we doing and how is it impacting our business? And we've spoken so much about that. If you want your trainings to live and be effective, then we need to think of the system it will thrive in, the strategy it connects to, and how we will keep it sustainable. So next time, don't ask why you trained 1,000 people and nothing happened. When you train them, what did you expect would happen? Thank you.